Okay, so you saw me tracing shadows outside, and I told you that we were going to work with the watercolor to do this. I also have a video on the slide presentation that shows you different techniques you can use. I want you to use the wet media, any of the wet medias that they show you can do. Don't use the pencil, not pencil, the pen marking technique. So you could, I think she showed the coffee technique, the watercolor with salt, and then I think I'm just going to use the watercolor with salt. But you need to decide if you are going to paint the negative space and the positive space, or one or the other. Depending, to me, this would look really neat to leave the negative space, the positive space white, and just paint in the negative space. Now, I see that there's some places that I did not trace, where there's some that's left out. So I'm just going back in and cleaning it up where I think it would look better with a complete line. You also, if yours is really dark, we don't want to see the pencil lines when you're done. We want to see watercolor edges or your wet media edges. So you want to make sure that it's nice and clean when you start it. I've got my salt that I'm going to use, and I've got my watercolor. Now, you do not want to knock off the salt until it's completely dry, because it'll leave a little texture. I've got a piece of watercolor paper that I use, your paper that I used, where you can see this really neat texture that's on there that was made from the salt, but you've got to let it dry overnight when you're done. So this can be as colorful as you want it to be. It doesn't have to be a particular color scheme. I've got my paintbrushes ready to go. So you need to decide which paintbrush would work best for you. I've got my watercolors, I got my cup of water, I got my paintbrushes, and I got my salt. So I am going to use the negative space, and I chose to do this one for my negative space because you can tell where the bike is, and you can tell what this is. Now this one, I think it would be neat to do the positive and negative space, and it'll look more abstract when I'm done. Because it's really kind of hard to tell what exactly is the positive space on here and the negative space from the shadows. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way and just show you exactly what I'm doing on here. I'm not going to show a whole lot because I felt like the Artie teacher with her demonstration showed us a lot of what to do. But I wanted you to see where I'm coming from with the subject matter that you saw me trace in the video. Okay. I'm just going to choose random colors. I like blue. Blue is one of my favorite colors. So while it's wet, you got to put the salt on it if you're using the salt technique. I know with her coffee technique, she put the little crumbles of the coffee in it after she painted it, which is kind of the same kind of technique, but using coffee. All right, so while this is wet, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of salt on it. If I can get the top of it off. There we go. And keep the salt on the wet part, and it'll make a neat little. All right, so I want to blend some of my blue in with other colors. So if I blend blue and purple together, I'm going to get blue-violet. What I would do is kind of paint in a section as quick as you can. And then add the salt while it's wet. And if you feel like it's already dried too much, put some more water on it. Notice I'm not picking up my paintbrush until I'm either done with the line or I run out of paint so that I could have sharp edges. I'm doing that around the edges. So that's still wet, so I'm going to put a little bit of salt. I'm going to brush that into it. I'm going to get a little bit smaller brush so I can do these parts. I'll outline that little pencil line first and then blend it out in the middle. I'm trying to go as quick as I can on it so that it'll stay wet. It might be easier for you if you just had some salt in a little cup and then you pinch it on there and put it on. Okay, so that's what I'm doing to fill in the negative space. I'll finish this out so you can see it, but that's the process that I went through on that. See you in the next video.